My next guest has a unique resume to bring to the program. He is a Jewish climate journalist, and he hosts a podcast called The Sweaty Penguin. And he has a really interesting topic to converse with us about today, which is a growing anti-Israel movement as part of the larger environmental movement. Ethan Brown is on the Davison Family Dentistry Newsmaker line with me this morning. Ethan, welcome to Iowa Radio. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So, Ethan, what are you seeing in this environmental movement? It's somehow we've mixed in anti-Israel messages, haven't we?
It's been a little surprising to me. I'm like you said, a Jewish climate commentator. I run a podcast called The Sweaty Penguin. I've been involved in this world for a while, and after October 7th, I've seen a lot of climate activists out chanting anti-Israel rhetoric, trying to make links between Israel or anti-Israel ideas and climate change, and I haven't found them very accurate, and I've found it very counterproductive.
Well, and that's it, right, Ethan? This is going to divide people up that normally would be moving in the same direction, isn't it?
Exactly, and that's what I wrote about in my op-ed for The Hill last week, which I'd encourage people to check out. I think that for folks like myself who are Jewish, I think I have pretty nuanced views on the conflict, but
right.
By and large, I do love Israel. I have been there and found it amazing, and so I think that for us, it's really difficult to square our real desire for clean air, clean water, and a healthy environment with a movement that is trying to exclude us.
So, as you say in your column, and by the way, Ethan's column on thehill.com, the headline is Climate Movement Splinters as Activists Target Israel. And you say, hey, look, climate activists have every right to support other causes. But Ethan, I'm confused here. Why are they mixing anti-Israel sentiment with an environmental movement?
Yeah, they've picked out a few things, and I think this is maybe their bias just kind of trying to be justified. But they've said that the war in Gaza is actually an attempt to steal Palestinian fossil fuels. This is not true. It's to release hostages, but also the fossil fuels they're talking about are natural gas reserves that are in the Mediterranean Sea, nowhere near any Palestinian territory. They talk about how Palestinian rainwater collection is illegal, which is it's a lot more complicated than that, which I kind of break down. And more recently, there was an article in The Guardian talking about the climate impact of the war, talking about how it's caused like 281,000 tons of emissions. But this was out of context, too. This is compared to like 150 million tons of emissions from Russia's invasion of Ukraine. I think that's a pretty decent comparison, to be honest with you. So that's a lot of what I'm seeing. And these links are often out of context, sometimes fully inaccurate, and just not productive.
Well, and then what happens, Ethan, is then this environmental movement, they start portraying Israel as anti-environment, just in general. And you're trying to point out in your column, they do a lot of pro-environmental things, don't they?
Yeah, everyone has their issues. Israel is still reliant on a lot of fossil fuel imports and exploring a lot of natural gas. But at the same time, Israel is the only country on earth to have more trees in 2000 than 1900. They developed desalination technologies, which have been instrumental for water scarcity in the region. And they have an incredible climate tech industry with over 850 startups. I had the opportunity to travel there last year and meet many of these entrepreneurs. They're so inspiring. They have such amazing ideas. And to shut that out is just bizarre.
Well, and another point that you make in your column on thehill.com, you say that the number of Americans identifying as environmentalists tanked from 78% in 1991 to 41% in 2021. And is this a contributing cause, Ethan?
Not to that number, because that only goes up to 2021, but I think it's this type of thing that we're seeing issues with, right? Everyone wants clean air, clean water, and a healthy environment. I think we can all agree on that. That's always what I've found. Where this goes astray is when the movement tries to take more extreme positions on policy, or just bringing in other issues that might be unrelated, or not attaching it to just how can we make people's lives better.
Right.
That's always what my goal has been. So today we see all these activists throwing stupid paintings and blocking highways, and it bothers people, and it leads people not to want to be a part of it, even though they probably agree with what the core message is.
And I like the way that early on in the interview, Ethan, you said you have a nuanced view on all of this, because I think that's what we're missing. Part of the reason there's been a lot of attention to this issue is because you got Greta Thunberg, who's so famous for her climate activism, chanting "Crush Zionism" at rallies. So I'm trying to get into her head, where you have all of these different positions on different issues. Somehow you've decided you need to merge them together, right? That somehow I'm pro-Palestine, so I have to portray Israel as anti-environment. And that's not going to be successful for the long-term health of any kind of movement that you believe in, right, Ethan?
Yeah, I think it's tricky because climate does have very interesting links to a lot of other issues, to economic issues, to justice issues, to national security issues, to public health. And it's important to explore those links, communicate those links, especially when we have solutions which can help both issues, which is very often the case. But we can't make a link if it's not there. We have to be careful with this. And again, if people want to support other causes, that's fine. I won't stand in their way. But if we're going to make these links to climate, we have to do it deliberately, and we have to do it in a way that will include people in the conversation, not push them away.
Ethan Brown, I love the name of his podcast. It's called The Sweaty Penguin. Ethan, really thoughtful comments this morning. Thank you for joining me on Iowa Radio. And this goes back to something I told you that I experienced as a legislator in Iowa. And the reason that less and less people are willing to identify themselves as environmentalists, because you get these big organizations that say, we're all for this, and then people attach themselves to that organization, and protecting the environment is not their main goal. That's the problem. You have sincere people in this state that are true environmentalists. Then you have people who attach themselves to the movement, and they are anti-capitalism, and they are anti-private property rights. And they hide behind the shield of, I'm an environmentalist. And people are getting wise to this, and therefore support for actual policies that are good for the environment starts to fail, because you're seeing that true agenda be revealed. So let's take a look for a moment at the so-called pro-Palestine movement, right? What happened in the wake of the Gaza war it's been revealed that a lot of the people that say they're pro-Palestine are actually anti-Semites, and they're being revealed right now. If you can't denounce beheading of babies in service to a cause, something bigger is going on than the movement of being pro-Palestine. Same thing with this environmental movement. We're now having environmentalists say, we're pro-Palestine because Israel's bad for the climate. And that's going to do nothing to advance the cause of actually getting to a cleaner world.